So I've got a question. Why is it that when you're driving around and you come to a halt, say, at, I don't know, maybe a junction like this right here, and your engine start-stop technology just kind of does this? Just kind of doesn't cut out, just comes up with the yellow orangey thing. And again, minutes later, you come to a stop because you see some traffic again, and you're looking at your rev counter. Is the engine gonna turn off? Nope, and that yellow symbol still stays there. In fact, this even happens on this car, which is only 6 months old. Does it mean there's a fault or something like that? Well, no. There can be a number of reasons why the start-stop technology might not be operational. And there's actually quite a few of them. Let's have a look at some of them. So very quickly, why does start-stop technology even exist in the first place? Does it just not kind of wear out the starter motor more? Well, actually no, manufacturers have had this around about 10 years now in cars, in fact just a little bit more than that. It kind of helps reduce emissions for a start, so that's number one. And number two, for you and me, it can actually save fuel. Now of course, it would have to be obviously being used a lot, so if you're just driving up and down the motorway, then you're not really going to see any savings. But when you do come to a stop and you start-stop kind of in the city, that's where your savings are. But of course, this video is about why it's not working. So let's have a look at number one. Now the first one on this list can be the battery voltage. So yes, every car out there has a 12-volt battery which helps power all the screens and electrics and things in the car. However, they all draw power, and of course the engine is charging that battery up all the time. So the number one reason can be that the battery itself is just quite low. It could be the cold, it could be just that you've done lots of start-stops just in quick succession, or it could be the fact you've just been on holiday for a while, or God forbid there's another lockdown. Let's not go there. Don't want a repeat of that. So I've actually just driven around up and down in this car park like a madman and just done about 4 to 5 start-stops. So now if I drive over here and come to a stop again, because I've just done 4 or 5, it's not going to do it. So that engine is now actually charging that battery back up just so it can do it again when it's fully charged again. So for number two, I have actually found that it won't work in certain situations. So for example, if you put it into reverse, start-stop technology will not work when you're reversing a car. So me reversing into this space just behind here, and say I've all lined up and then come to a stop, it won't actually start-stop here. So it will never ever do it in reverse because there's never a reason to do that. You'll only do it when you're driving forwards. Also another thing, I haven't managed to test this out in my own particular car, but I have read that if you're doing a tight turn, like a 3-point turn for example, and turning, you know, quite sharply like this, it won't do it either. Steering wheel has to be remotely straight for it to work. Now the next one on the list is actually if you've just started the car. So you have to drive above, like, I think it's like 10, 12 miles an hour in this car. It might vary. I think my previous cars were like 8 miles an hour, but it just kind of depends. You have to drive above a certain speed to do it. So for example here, let's put the engine on, put it into drive, and just go forward a little bit, and just come to a stop. It will not start-stop like here right now, just because you've only just started. You do have to drive above a certain speed. So let's do that now. Let's go down here. So we're doing, what, about 20 miles an hour now, well and above and beyond what the threshold is. I swear in this car it's probably like, I think it's about 10 miles an hour, maybe 12 miles an hour. We'll spin it around here, then we'll come to a stop and see if it does it. And come to a stop. And sure enough, there's the start-stop, all green, ready to go. And of course, as soon as you take your foot off the brake pedal, it comes back on again. Pretty cool. So if it's not that, what else could it be? Well, the very next reason can actually be due to the outside ambient temperature. Case in point, this morning, it was very, very cold. When I took the dog out this morning, it was -6 degrees. In fact, even on my dashboard right now, it is -2. In fact, actually the start-stop technology just there, you just saw on the screen, has actually just started working. But I've been driving for, probably say about 10 minutes so far. So it's taken that long for the start-stop technology to start, you know, being operational. Now I'm sure if it was a little bit colder it might not work even still, but yes, it does work in -2. Cool, what about the next one? Now, while we're on the topic of temperature, don't forget engine temperature as well plays an important part in this. So the engine has to warm up as well. Now, of course, diesel engines will take longer to warm up from cold, whereas petrol engines will warm up faster. It purely depends. So if you ever want to check that, usually it's on the bottom right somewhere of your instrument cluster. However, some cars I've noticed more recently have actually got them hidden. Not sure why, but you can actually still find them. On this car, basically just press the home button, and navigate across to a menu that says service, and you can actually see the engine coolant temperature on there on the top right. See there, slap bang in the middle, that's exactly where you want it to be to do a start-stop. Now another one is also make sure that you've got enough fuel in your tank. I think most cars probably won't do it if you're on reserve fuel, so make sure you're not on reserve fuel, and that's another thing you can tick off the list. Now guys, this next one is actually probably the most important in this list because it actually catches a few people out. But just before that, make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you're loving this video, because it will help me out and of course help the channel. Right, let's have a look at this important one. Now I mentioned that this next one's really important, and because it's actually got a few hidden things that not many people know about, and it actually relates to the climate control in a car. Of course, we've already mentioned temperature of the engine and temperature, like ambient temperature, that sort of thing. But there's also a thing on climate control if there's a huge difference. So say for example today, I mean, my hands are pretty cold at the moment, it's 0 degrees, it's starting to warm up slightly, but it was -6 this morning. Now if you've asked the climate control to make it a toasty 26 degrees in the car, obviously it's not going to do the start-stop text, it's going to prioritise getting you warm because that's what you've asked it. Now another really cool thing as well that I didn't realise that this car actually does, and quite a few modern cars do, they actually have some form of kind of moisture detection on the windscreen. Now I don't actually know how that works, but it does work because if you, for example, get in the car and you've got a wet coat and you put the AC on, of course it removes moisture from the air. But there's some kind of moisture detection somewhere on the windscreen that if there's a lot of moisture, a lot of mist on the windscreen, then it won't actually start-stop at all until either the moisture's cleared or you turn AC off. Bet you didn't know that one. Now another thing to be aware of is if you're going up a steep hill or going down a steep hill as well, or even just doing some off-roading. I found that actually start-stop technology, for obvious reasons, doesn't kind of operate in those conditions. So have a think about that as well. Depends on if you're going up a steep hill or not. The other final things, and these are things that you'll only kind of see if you're on like a driveway or on a car park, but you do need your seatbelt on, all doors need to be closed, and the bonnet needs to be closed as well for a start-stop to actually correctly work. Now another thing to be aware of as well is if you have a diesel. Diesels have DPF filters, also known as diesel particulate filters. Quite often if they are built up over time, what you'll find is the fan or part of the engine, they can start to regenerate and burn off some of that stuff, and you'll find that start-stop won't work during that time. So that can be another reason if you own a diesel, it could be doing a DPF Regen or DPF Clean or something like that while on the move, and it just might not do it at that moment in time. Apart from that, if you've exhausted all those things, the number one thing what I would then suggest is kind of get in touch with a local garage or a mechanic or something like that, and they can check the battery condition and other elements just to see if there's anything else that it could be. But the kind of everything I've mentioned in this video today is everything that you and I could check without taking anything apart. Quite often it's just a simple thing like the you know, the engine temperature or the ambient temperature, or even the climate control. Something about the moisture sensor on the windscreens I didn't even know about. But guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and of course if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. That's all for today. See you next week.